Welcome back to the Situation Room. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. In our strategy session today, the uproar over the ABC miniseries, The Path to 9/11. 2 days before it's scheduled to air, ABC says it's still editing the part fact, part fiction movie on events leading up to the terror attacks. But the network won't discuss any specific scenes that may be changed. Former Clinton administration officials charge the film drastically distorts their roles and history should be corrected or even pulled. Former President Bill Clinton acknowledges he hasn't seen the film, but he shared his concerns about it with reporters last night in Arkansas.
I think they ought to tell the truth, particularly if they're going to claim it's based on the 9/11 Commission report. They shouldn't have scenes which are directly contradicted by the factual findings of the 9/11 Commission. That's all. I just want people to tell the truth, and not to pretend it's something it's not.
Joining us now are CNN political analyst and Democratic strategist Paul Begala and Terry Jeffrey, the editor of Human Events Online. You worked for President Clinton. You served in that administration. I take it you have not seen the film.
No, but you know what's interesting? Rush Limbaugh has and Bill Clinton has not. That suggests that there's a political agenda here, that ABC and the Walt Disney Company are trying to boost ratings, or I don't know what their agenda is. But when you don't show the movie to Bill Clinton, who's featured, many people believe dishonestly, in the film, but you showed it to Rush Limbaugh, what possible historical value or input can you get from showing it, to a right-wing radio blowhard?
You have a thought on that?
Well, I think they get shown it to other people in the media to get reviews. There's some newspapers that have reviewed this. Let me say this. I think the Clinton people have a point up to an extent. ABC should not be putting words in the mouths of people that they didn't say. They shouldn't be attributing actions to people that they didn't take. But if you look at the 9/11 report, Wolf, and correlate it with the reports about what is in the movie, they seem to have taken a little bit of dramatic license, but there was real things that went on. In 1998, 1999, there were 3 plans to take out bin Laden by the Clinton administration. 2 of them were terminated before they took place. 1 of them failed. That was when they fired the missiles into Afghanistan. I understand that Secretary of State Madeleine Albright has said that they attribute it to her warning the Pakistani government. That's not what the 9/11 Commission report says, but our government did in fact warn the Pakistani government, and there's a real question of whether or not the Pakistanis
Well, it didn't exactly warn the Pakistani. They sent over the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Ralston, to Pakistan to be with the top military leadership once the missiles were going, so that there would be no confusion. These missiles weren't coming from India, a rival. They said, don't worry, these are ours, and that was the way it happened. Apparently, it's not depicted like that in the film.
And it should have been depicted by that. And I'll tell you another thing about the 9/11 report. If you read it, you look at Chapter 4 that has these incidents, the principals gave conflicting stories to the 9/11 Commission report itself. For example, allegedly in the movie there's a scene where some CIA people with Afghan tribals, they're thinking about capturing Osama bin Laden. In fact, in May of 1998, the Clinton administration was putting in a plan to capture Osama bin Laden in a place called Karnak Farms. The CIA thought they could do it like they'd taken Miramel Khamsi out of that region. It was, in fact, terminated by the Clinton White House. Some people thought Berger was responsible.
Well,
George Tenet took credit for it.
The 9/11 Commission report says it was terminated by George Tenet, the CIA, but not Sandy Berger, which is apparently what the movie suggests. Now, if you're Sandy Berger or Madeleine Albright, and you're depicted in ways that make you look bad, you're going to be pretty upset about this.
I'm going to sue him. It's defamatory. Terry's right. There's a whole lot of ground to cover. I don't think anybody could make a movie about this who needs to make stuff up. Plenty of mistakes on the part of our government, the Clinton administration, the Bush administration, plenty of heroic actions, and people like Richard Clarke, who served in both administrations, trying desperately to stop bin Laden before he attacked us. They don't need to be making stuff up. And this is about the integrity of the Walt Disney Corporation and the outrage. I just think it's all about this corporation misserving its
here's my sense why they made it available to conservatives, to Republicans, to Governor Tom Kean, who's going to be joining us in the next hour here in the Situation Room, the former chairman of the 9/11 Commission, and not to Democrats as much, or to liberals in the weeks leading up to this, because of what happened to CBS on that movie about Ronald Reagan a couple of years back, when conservatives and Republicans were very critical. CBS eventually pulled it. It aired on Showtime and had a much smaller audience, and I think ABC was probably trying to preempt that kind of reaction from the right. As a result, they tried to...
It's still unfair and biased. And I went back actually to Terry's magazine, Human Events, which, even though I'm a liberal, this may kill your subscription. It's a lively magazine. It's a smart magazine. And I went back and looked at the review that you guys did of the Reagan miniseries, because back when I was doing Crossfire, we had debated it then. Michael Reagan wrote the review. Okay, and he said it was a shameful fictionalization. But in the whole review, even Michael Reagan couldn't cite factual flaws the way Terry just cited 2 or 3 factual flaws. But I watched the movie when it aired on Showtime, and it was unfair. It was an unfair depiction of Nancy Reagan, especially.
They put words in the mouth of Ronald Reagan that he not only didn't say, he never should have said. And I agree, that should not be done to Sandy Berger. It should not be done to Madeleine Albright. But if you look at the 9/11 report, Wolf, and read the footnotes too, and all of these stories, you have conflicting reports about what actually happened. The guys from the CIA say one thing, the guys from the military say something, Richard Clark says another thing, George Tenet says another thing. It's really up to someone with a critical eye to make up their own mind what actually happened, because you have conflicting stories told to the commission.
It's up to Robert Iger, Bob Iger, who's the CEO of the Walt Disney Corporation. It's up to George Mitchell, a former Democratic Senate Majority Leader, who's the chairman of the Walt Disney Corporation, to tell the truth. And they're telling their viewers that this is based on the 9/11 Commission report, and it is not.
We just got a letter that's signed by Madeleine Albright, the former Secretary of State, Sandy Berger, the former National Security Advisor to Bill Clinton, and in their letter to Governor Kane, the chairman of the 9/11 Commission, one of the co-executive producers of this film, they urge him, they say, we ask that you use your influence to persuade ABC to withdraw the broadcast altogether. In other words, they don't just want changes, they want to see this film off the air.
Absolutely. Because it defames people who served our country honorably. It makes stuff up. There's been tons of coverage. How many hours, how many hundreds of hours have you spent covering the 9/11 Commission and its report? Terry just cited it a couple times. There's a best-selling book out now. People can find that. But when you take it and fictionalize it and lie about people, as Walt Disney, Bob Iger is doing, I think they ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Chapter 4, page 113 of the 9/11 Commission report. It says that this attempt where they were going to capture bin Laden at the Tarnack Farms, they're talking about why it was called off. In the discussion of that, they say that Sandy Berger was worried that they would not have the evidence to convict bin Laden to be acquitted. That scene epitomizes what was wrong with the U.S. approach to al-Qaeda under the Clinton administration and the early part of the Bush administration. We approached these murderous terrorists as if it was a law enforcement problem rather than a foreign enemy that had attacked us and was bent on killing innocent civilians. That's in the report.
We launched dozens of cruise missiles. We had lots of covert operations, many of which were later revealed in the 9/11 Commission. There was a whole lot that the Clinton administration did, a whole lot more than the Bush administration did. Did they do enough? No. We should have killed him. And we should have killed him in the 5 years since he's attacked our country. But we should, I think what we can agree on is that the Disney company, ABC, is being grossly irresponsible by putting on something that is a lie.
If they put false words in people's mouths, they should take that out. But that doesn't, if they put scenes in there that did not take place, that distort history, they shouldn't be.
The star of the movie,
that does not mean they have to cancel the whole show. You don't know. You haven't seen it.
But isn't there something wrong with the fact that they haven't shown it to Bill Clinton, or they're showing it to Gasbag Limbaugh? I mean, come on, it's a setup job.
We got to leave it right here. We'll see what ABC does Sunday night and Monday night when these 2 parts of this miniseries scheduled to air. We'll see what happens. Good discussion. Thanks very much. We'll have much more on the story.